everybody, I have not done a video in a little while. In this video, I want to discuss anemones briefly. I know that if you have anemones, you know exactly how they are and what you do. I'm going to tell you what I do with mine. First off, this one here is a new anemone I had just gotten. Alright, and then there's also a second one. There's two of them, and you see him in the back there by the yellow wrasse. There's my blue carpet, and he's growing like crazy. And there are my originals. These guys have been in my tank for several years, probably from the beginning. But I wanted to discuss, first off, you notice that I have coral. I have acans, I have LPS, soft, salty. So LPS in my tank, salty, some torch. There's my soft toadstool. Then I have some zinnias back there. You can kind of see the tops of them. They just kind of grow wild there. And then some regular mushrooms. Those are tagalongs growing on that rock. But what I want to get to with anemones, first off, there's a lot of people who have a lot of questions with anemones. First off, anemones can move. We all know that. If you're not willing to move coral out of the way as they take a stroll around your tank to find their perfect spot, and not to forgive a little coral, if your coral's getting stung here and there, anemones are not a good place for a reef tank. Now, do I have a reef tank? Yes, I have a reef tank. But it's a constant battle. Look, when you see something like this, look how close that anemone has decided to park himself right there. And he's been in my tank for 5 years. He just decided all of a sudden I like it right there. Look how close he is to my prized Aura Gynapora, And whenever they take a walk, unfortunately, it's and people try to pry them off rocks and put them somewhere else. It doesn't matter. I can tell you from my inexperienced self way back in the day, you can pry them off a rock all you want to do, all you want, and put them somewhere else, and they will walk wherever they want to be. They have a mind of their own, so to speak. They like to go where they like the particular light, the flow. It has to be perfect for them, so they will stroll all over the place. So again, keep that in mind. As far as if you're not willing, like, oh my God, he's gonna stroll over and park himself right next to my $500 acan colony or whatever, and you're not willing to move stuff around for them, then they're definitely not a wise choice for a reef tank. I can tell you that. But the second thing I want to talk about is feeding. I get asked a lot of questions about feeding. I don't feed my anemones every day. They get food, once a week, once every 2 weeks. They get a little chunk of mysis. That's about all I feed them. I feed my fish in my tank. I have 13 or 14 fish. One of them I thought was dead. See that? There he is right there. See that big coarse wrasse? He was, that's the small one. I don't know where he went. I thought he was a goner. But he made it. There he is. He's been under the sand for 6 weeks. I haven't seen him for 6 weeks until today. So I dumped mysis in there right away. He was a pig. He was awfully hungry, but he didn't look too skinny. So that was good. But anyway, back to the anemones. I just feed mine. I just cut up some mysis shrimp, and I just feed mine a small chunk of mysis once a week, once every 2 weeks. The big anemone, once every 2 weeks I feed him too. The faster you feed the carpet anemone, the faster he'll grow. And they can grow up to 2 to 3 feet wide. So, if that's a concern, they do grow fast. Because that guy was about half that size a year ago, and I've had him over a year now. So that's my deal on anemones. And please, I do have a cover for my Ecotech. They came with an actual, foam cover that you can put on it to protect in case you're wondering an anemone gets up there. I have it on usually at night. If I have an anemone that I'm looking at them, and you can tell when they start walking. Their foot will start becoming unattached, almost like they're walking on their own. So it's always good to keep your eye on that for sure. And also, please do not. I mean, there's ways you can get anemones off rocks. Like put a point of power head at the anemone. Eventually, he'll unattach. Some people hold the anemone upside down, the whole rock and everything upside down, and they put an ice cube on his foot, and that's uncomfortable to them, so they'll unattach. People have very success doing that. You have to be very, very careful, because if you tear that foot, which is not hard to do, that foot is real, like thin, looks like skin, and it's like a real thin skin. Once that's torn, it's very hard to get that to heal without killing the anemone. So you definitely want to, if you can, and yeah, sometimes you're going to park in the back of the tank, and now I can't see this expensive anemone I just bought. Unfortunately, that's par for the course. There's no way to stop that. People ask that all the time, can I stop it from moving? You can't. Corals, yes, you put the corals where you want them, that's perfect. Anemones are living creatures, corals are living too, but they're stationary. Anemones are living creatures, and they have a mind of their own. They will go where they want. This one here, okay, this one here was over there when I first put them in this tank, right? Over there. Overnight, my carpet anemone, if you remember my other videos, was right over here. So in just one night, he decided to take a stroll, and he parked himself right next to my carpet anemone, which I was shocked. And he wanted that spot. And so the carpet anemone, this carpet anemone, to me, the sting is worse for a carpet anemone than a bubble tip. But you never know. And the carpet anemone did look kind of miserable, because he was kind of trying to get away from the bubble tip anemone. So it's easier to move a carpet anemone than a bubble tip, because carpet anemones, especially mine's an Estodani, they plant their foot is attached to the bottom glass of the aquarium, not to the rockwork. And the foot also is not as delicate as the bubble tip foot. So your chances of tearing it are really low. So I just stick my hand underneath, and I'll just take a little while, but I'll gradually get his foot off of that glass, and he'll release. And then I went and moved him over here, and he is really the centerpiece. He's probably one of the centerpiece of my aquarium. To me, is my blue carpet anemone, because they're not that common. He's like a bluish purple, and in some lights he looks purple, and in some lights he looks blue. So that's about all my advice I have for today anyway on the bubble tips. But again, you're going to just have to unfortunately leave them alone, and they're going to wander the tank, and move your corals out of the way. If they get too close or they park next to a coral, or like I had to do, I had to move my whole carpet anemone, so because he decided he wanted that spot. Or you could end up and have your second one sitting there right in the back. So that is my advice on bubble tips for today. Thanks for watching, everybody. Happy reefing.